gentlemen, members of the media, uh, members of the stakeholders community, you are welcome to this media briefing and stakeholder engagement on social services cluster. Compliments of the new season. This is our first ever press briefing for Parliament and so the first media briefing for the clusters of committees. Today's engagement takes place at a critical moment in the education's calendar as the 2026 academic year begins across the country, and Parliament, through its committee system, has a constitutional responsibility to exercise oversight, accountability, and public participation, particularly on matters that directly affect learners, students, parents, and institutions. We are conducting this media briefing for the first time fully virtually because we are mindful that the chairpersons that are joining us today from the Dealing with Education Matters are all over the country. They are engaged on overseeing the beginning of the academic year and to ensure appropriate oversight as it is their parliamentary responsibility. The theme and focus of this briefing is strengthening accountability and readiness across the education system. And therefore, today's briefing seeks to outline how Parliament is monitoring readiness, performance trends, systems, challenges, and legislative implementation across the entire education value chain, from childhood development and post-school education and training. So the chairpersons who are joining us today will be reflecting on topics such as oversight, findings arising from the academic outcomes and the start of the 2026 financial or academic year, school and institutional readiness, and areas requiring intervention, and so on and so forth. So we do have on the platform the chairperson of the three committees that are dealing with education matters. We've got Ms. Joy Maimela, who is the chairperson of the Portfolio Committee on Basic Education. We've got Mr. Makhi Feni, who is the chairperson of the Select Committee on Education, Science and Creative Industries in the National Council of Provinces. And we have got also the chairperson of the Portfolio Committee on Higher Education and Training, Mr. Tebogo, Letsie. Just a few housekeeping rules, colleagues. Let's just make sure that our microphones and the audio control is on mute. Let's ensure that the cell phone are off so that when you are called to ask a question, you are not disrupted by the cell phone ringing at the same time. And also just a request that as this session is being broadcast live, please, where possible, put your camera on when posing a question to the panel, unless you have got a serious technical difficulties, it is fine. And when invited to speak, media and stakeholders, you are requested that to state your name and your organization before posing a question. Questions can be directed to me verbally when I recognize you. I'm sure we know the hand function. You can raise your hand, or you can simply just post it on the chat, and they will look at it and then the chairpersons will deal with that question as well. And as it is a usual practice, questions will be taken after the presentations. And just to emphasize that the focus of this media briefing, I've already given the topic of the theme, but it's just so that we have a distinction between the executive and the parliamentary roles, and we understand those roles. The briefing is not about operational matters of the sector, but about Parliament's role in ensuring that executive action is accountable, is responsive, and aligned to the institutional right, the constitutional right to education. So without any waste of time, I'm going to invite the first presentation from the chairperson of the Portfolio Committee on Basic Education in the National Assembly, Honorable Joy Maimela. Honorable Chair, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mutapo, and good morning to yourself. Good morning to members, and good morning to all the stakeholders joined us on this platform. Persons in this briefing session, and of course, compliments of the new season. Mr. Mutapo, we are, as the Basic Education Portfolio Committee, we will be engaging with our stakeholders and members of the media on just 3 key issues. And these key issues include, of course, our reaction on the announcements of the NSC exams, the outcomes. We're going to reflect on the oversight visit that we're going to undertake in the coming weeks. We are also going to reflect on some of the issues that we've also picked up during the festive season, which is teenage pregnancy and statutory. Mr. Mutapi, it's important for us to indicate that as a portfolio committee on basic education, we welcome the marginal increase in the pass rate achieved by the grade 12 cohort. And we attribute the commendable 88% and the steady year-on-year improvement. While the 88% is commendable, we want to highlight for a consent level through STEM subjects, as we welcome the increase, especially as it reflects by development over the past few years. Low output in STEM subjects continue to limit the country's drive towards economic growth, technological development, and global competitiveness. The committee agrees with the Department of Basic Education that efforts should be directed towards establishing at least one technical school in every district to help drive growth in these subjects. We also note that this milestone brings a new and pressing challenge to the fore. The class of 2025 produced approximately 345,000 bachelor's passes, yet the number of available placements at institutions of higher learning remains lower. The public university system is projected to offer almost 235,000 academic year, which qualifies. This growing gap underscores the urgent need for closer collaboration between the Department of Higher Education and Training and the department to develop viable pathways for transitioning learners into post-school education and training. Without such coordinated intervention, many qualify or falling by the wayside. Furthermore, We welcome the progress made across all districts, with every district achieving performance above the 80% mark. The enormous work by all stakeholders, including district officials, has been central to this cohort achieving this important milestone in their basic education journey. In line with this, we welcome immense progress within fee-paying schools, schools in townships and rural areas, which bodes well for development of the department to enhance actions on the commitment to early childhood education and building strong support structures at the lower levels of education. As the academy is PDs, ensure that all its systems in order. This includes families of learning and teaching
Uh,
support materials,
Honorable Chair,
provisional nutrition program, and
Honorable Chair,
Mr. Muta,
maybe,
Mr. Mutapoko.
yes, okay. As undesirable as it is, maybe we are going to have to ask you to switch off the video because we are completely missing a lot of things that you are saying because of the connectivity problems on your side. Can you hear me?
Okay. I can hear you very well, Mr. Mutapo. I'll try to do that.
Yeah. Maybe if you can switch off the video and then we'll come back to, yeah, and see if it gets better. Proceed.
I hope it is better,
Yes,
Mr.
yes.
I hope it is better, and really apologies for that. As we were saying that as the academic year begins, we urge DBE and its PEDs to ensure that all its systems are fully in place to allow teaching and learning to commence and flourish without impediments. This includes the timely availability of learning and teaching support materials, adequate teacher provisioning, the protection of learning time, and the effective implementation of the National School Nutrition Program and scholar transport. On the planned school readiness oversight visit to schools in the Limpopo province, the committee intends on conducting an oversight and monitoring visit to schools in Limpopo province from the 26th to the 30th of January 2026. As part of our constitutional mandate to monitor the state of school infrastructure readiness for the 2026 academic year. The education districts to be visited are Mopani District, Sikukune, Capricorn, and Waterberg District. The primary purpose of the oversight visit is to assess the state of school infrastructure and system readiness for 2026 academic year. The following will be areas of focus amongst others: water, electricity and sanitation, buildings, maintenance, infrastructure development, eradication of pit latrines, and capital infrastructure projects. We're going to be looking at ICT, network connectivity, and classroom overcrowding. We'll also be looking at early childhood development, district support, SGB effectiveness, capacity building, and roles and responsibilities. We'll further look at learner transport and National School Nutrition Program and the LTSM requirement and delivery. With regard to the last point, we would also like to express serious concern about reports that some schools and school governing bodies have been withholding learners' report cards because parents cannot participate in fundraising activities. We've also noted complaints that parents at no-fee schools are being required to buy stationery, which is unlawful and undermines learners' constitutional right to basic education. Participation in fundraising is voluntarily, and learners must never be punished for their parents' socio-economic circumstances. We further wish to raise concern over delays in the delivery of learner teachers support material in KwaZulu-Natal, calling on the provincial department to urgently account and ensure that timely delivery of LTSM and to prevent disruption of teaching and learning. On statutory rape and teenage pregnancy, We also want to touch on the issue of teenage pregnancies and statutory rape. Over the festive season, we have seen media articles of teenagers becoming parents. We're deeply concerned about the persistent rise in teenage pregnancies and cases of statutory rape, particularly highlighted by the media reports over the recent festive season. These incidents are alarming and point to a broader societal failure to protect children, especially young girls, from abuse and exploitation. According to media articles, we noted that during the festive period, more than 130 teenagers gave birth on just Christmas Day, up from 90 in the previous year. This is a sign of a growing problem. Further articles on New Year's Day, health authorities reported that over 160 teenagers gave birth across public health facilities, nearly double the number recorded in the previous year. KwaZulu-Natal alone had multiple 15-year-old girls giving birth during this period. This data clearly highlights that teenage pregnancy remains a serious public health and social challenge across South Africa. We believe that in many cases, teenage pregnancy is often not a matter of choice, but a consequence of coercion, power imbalances, and in many cases, criminal conduct by older men. Statutory rape remains a serious crime regardless of consent and must be treated as such by families, communities, and law enforcement agencies. Early pregnancies disrupt schooling, exposes young mothers to health risks, and entrenches cycles of poverty and inequality. We call for stronger collaboration between the Department of Basic Education, Health, Social Development, SAPS, and Justice to strengthen prevention, improve reporting, and ensure accountability. Protecting learners must remain a national priority both in and beyond the classroom. In conclusion, colleagues, the committee has identified several critical issues that will receive focused attention in the period ahead. These include strengthening coordinated planning between DBE and the Department of Higher Education to ensure smoother learner transitions with a broader focus on post-school pathways. The committee will also interrogate the funding model for public schools, as well as the level and impact of funding provided to independent schools. Finally, we commit to intensifying efforts to strengthen education and awareness around statutory rape to ensure full compliance with mandatory reporting requirements, and to call for a comprehensive review of the implementation status of the learner pregnancy policy and comprehensive sexuality education in our schools. I want to leave it there, Mr. Mutapen. Thank you very much to the colleagues, and apologies for the earlier challenges with network. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair. Yes, indeed, we apologize, colleagues, for the lack of a video on this presentation due to connection challenges. Can I now welcome the Honorable Chairperson for the Portfolio Committee on Higher Education and Training, Honorable Tebogo, Letsie.
Thank you very much, Dr. Motapo. I hope I'm audible.
Yes, no, you're audible. We can also see you, Chair.
No, thank you very much. Good morning to yourself. Good morning to the colleagues that have joined us on this platform. My name is Tebogo, the Chairperson of Higher Education. In today's briefing, I will be covering four key issues. One will be the state of readiness from NSFAS point of view. Two will be the readiness of the sector, universities, TVET colleges, CETs, and SETAs. Number three will be governance issues at Mangosuthu University of Technology. And then I'll be ending it with the oversight that the committee is planning to do. Let me take this opportunity to congratulate the matric learners class of 2025 for the sterling work they accomplished. As a nation, we take pride in the improvement of our education system, as evidenced by the results announced on Monday, 12 January. NSFAS received 893,852 applications for the 2026 academic year, of which 520,544 were from SASSA recipients, and 776,253 were from first-time entering students. NSFAS has reported that 609,403 applicants have qualified for financial aid, 49,538 have been rejected, 218,043 are still awaiting missing documents, and 16,863 were withdrawn. Senior students and prospective students whose applications cannot be processed due to outstanding documents should urgently submit them to avoid disappointments later in the year. NSFAS cannot wait forever, as it needs to complete this process as soon as possible. We call upon institutions of higher learning to submit registration data of students so that NSFAS can proceed with making upfront payments to this institution so that both students and institution do not suffer. We welcome the decision by NSFAS to eliminate the middleman and pay private accommodation providers directly. This will ensure the sustainability of the business and that students are provided with the necessary service. We also urge NSFAS to ensure that proper audits and monitoring are done to ensure that they pay for the services rendered. Regarding governance at NSFAS, as the committee are concerned with governance instability at the entity, delays in the filling of vacancies and over-reliance on consultants, we urge the Minister of Higher Education, Mr. Joy Maimela, and the board of NSFAS to ensure that vacancies are filled to bring stability to the entity. I move to the second part, which is the readiness of the post-school education and training system, institutional preparedness at universities, TVET colleges, community education and training, and CETAs for the 2026 academic cycle. On 26 November 2025, as the Portfolio Committee, we convened a PSET stakeholder engagement where we had DHET, University South Africa, which is called USAF, South African Public College Organization, SACPO, the South African Union of Students, SAUS, the South African Technical and Vocational Education and Training Student Association, SAFETA, and NSFAS on the readiness for the 2026 academic year. The invited stakeholders presented their plans on their readiness for the new academic year. As the committee, after thoroughly engaging them, we welcome the plans as presented by all stakeholders, especially those that would ensure the smooth commencement of the 2026 academic year. The universities indicated that the delayed release of the National Senior Certificates results, NSC results, impacts the academic program. They noted that they will need 3 days post the release of the results to release outcome letters or admissions offers to prospective students. We urge the prospective students to be on the lookout for emails from universities because there are timelines that need to be adhered to when accepting or declining admission offers. This is important because we don't want a student to come later on and say, I was offered a space at this university, and that when I went to accept it, it was no longer there. So students should be on the lookout and accept as soon as they receive the offers. The PSAT system, including universities, TVETs, and CETs, has a combined admission space of 525,000. Universities have got 235,000, TVETs have got 170,000, and CETs have 130,000. The number of candidates passing matric is higher than opportunities given in these institutional types. Then these numbers are informed by funding constraints regarding NSFAS and government grants or subsidies to institutions. You may have heard that the Chairperson of Basic Education indicated that those who passed with bachelor degrees from basic education are 245,000, and universities can only offer 235,000. I need to emphasize that these universities are public universities. We still have other private universities where students must also look at. These private higher education institutions and colleges that are registered and their programs accredited, and we encourage prospective students to also consider them. Before registering or this prospective student and their parents should first check with the DHET the registration and program accreditation status of these private institutions, as some are bogus or fly-by-night institutions, but masquerading as registered institutions. Students and parents should be vigilant and report such institutions. TVET and CT colleges are offering occupational programs that are linked to industry needs. We also encourage prospective students not to treat these institutions as their last resort, but as institutions, excuse me, as institutions that provide skills that lead to employability or self-employment. CITAS and NSF also have a combined budget of almost 26 billion meant for skills development. This skills levy institution fund skills development providers to provide skills training to the youth and adults in the country. They have many opportunities and they should be explored and exploited. Government is in the process of expanding access to education and training through the University of Technology, through the establishment of the Northwest University Mining School in Rustenburg, Tshwane University of Technology Satellite Campus in Guyane, University of Zululand Satellite Campus in Ulundi, and new TVET college campuses across the country. The University of Mpumalanga and Salt Lake University are still growing their enrollments annually and introducing new postgraduate programs. I move now to governance and leadership stability. Before maybe I speak about MUT, I need to pause and emphasize that as the committee, we have indicated to the Minister of Higher Education and Training that the situation at the University of Fort Hare, where we believe that the continued stay of the current Vice Chancellor, Councillor Butungu, is irregular, and we had indicated that we ask the Minister to consider putting an independent assessor to look at fitness to hold office of that council still remains, and we'll be following up on that particular matter. The committee is gravely concerned about instability at the Mangosuthu University of Technology. This institution has experienced governance challenges for far too long. And as we thought that the new executives will bring stability to the institution, we're confronted again with the suspension of executives, which is the Vice Chancellor and 2 Deputy Vice Chancellors. We're concerned about how the suspension of these executives will impact the commencement of the academic year and the core business of that institution. We'll engage with the Minister and the Council of MUT on this matter. We learned about the suspension of the Vice Chancellor and these 2 Deputy Vice Chancellors at the end of the year when the Parliament program for 2025 was coming to an end. The committee does not have information on the reasons or nature of the suspension. However, this is what we'll establish when we resume our oversight activities for 2026 and see how we can include this in our program. Lastly, we have oversight for the 2026 academic year. The Portfolio Committee will embark on a 2-week oversight visit to Limpopo institutions from 26 January to 30 January 2026. Institutions to be visited are University of Venda, which will be on the 26th of January, University of Limpopo on the 27th of January, Capricorn TVET College on the 28th of January, Letaba TVET College on the 29th of January, and NSF and CITA-funded programs with Limpopo CET College will be the last one on the 30th of January 2026. We'll also embark on another oversight visit to the Eastern Cape institutions from 1 February to 7 February 2026. Institutions to be visited will be Oltase Sulu on 2 February, Eastern Cape Midlands TVET on the 3rd of February, Nelson Mandela University on the 4th of February, Port Elizabeth TVET College on the 5th of February, and NSF CITA-funded project and Eastern Cape CT College will be the last one on the 6th of February. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Chairperson Letsie. The last presentation then will come from the Chairperson of the NCOP Select Committee on Education, Science and Creative Industries. Is the Chairperson ready? Chairperson Honorable Makhi Feni.
Yes, Mr. Mulapo, I'm ready, even though I'm also encouraging some communication glitches. So I'm pardoning you for not showing my video. if I'm allowed to proceed. Thank you very much.
Yes, we also apologize for Chairperson Feni because of the connectivity problems, but you may proceed only with audio.
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Melapo. Let me first greet you all as my colleagues have already previously done so. Your good self, the media, members of the public, your administrative staff, as a select committee on basic education. We will also follow on the what other chairpersons have already have done to welcome and congratulate those matriculants who have managed to do their best in ensuring that they are keeping the flag high. And then also we want to say that to those who didn't manage to make it, it is not the end of the world. The road that you repeat, you become more wiser. They must be encouraged. They must not be discouraged. We know that many instances of suicide because of the way that they are being, treated after they have not made or as expected. We want to say as a select committee that they must be given the necessary support, the counseling and so on. So they must know that we are with them. They are not left, behind in the radar. There is a second chance. And to those institutions and schools that are denying them the second chance, we must be hard on them when we are dealing, with those particular questions, because it is not assisting, to punish them, due to the mistake that they've committed. How is 88% indeed is a serious, landmark pass. That's what we want to highlight, and I think it's first time in history. It tells you that at least the direction that we're taking is the right direction. We're on the right track. We want to congratulate indeed KZN for achieving and being number one. But we want to highlight that for us to be able to see, more and more of this success, there are issues that need to be addressed, as has been highlighted indeed on our oversights, on a number of occasions that we were embarked on oversights. The one of the challenge, that of infrastructure, coupled with lack of teaching time, and then also, will always manifest in the final marks at the end of the year, and then that becomes now as a surprise, even though some of these indicators were there. So it's important for us to be able to highlight and address them. Infrastructure for almost 3 decades had put the provinces at a disadvantage. Specifically, your rural area provinces are the ones that are at the highest. We wish to reiterate our call that we do not become obsessed with percentages, but good fundamentals that will improve the quality of the passes. If this is not resolved, this issue of infrastructure, natural learners will go to provinces where they think there are better opportunities, when in fact there are opportunities where they live. In some provinces, educators are held to account about their work. So that must be also to be addressed. But we're saying the results be better, not a symptom or a reflection of what is happening on the ground. Infrastructure challenges are coupled, with the question of access to resources, budgetary constraints, mismanagement of government programs, mismanagement of funds, scholar transport, tags that are targeting schools, and ill-equipped ECD sector. ECD educator qualification requirements, as it has been, a thorny issue, in last couple of months. Let me develop the argument around the educator qualification requirement further. Because the function had recently been shifted from the Department of Social Development to DBE only last year. For too long, emphasis have rightly been on the welfare of the child, not on whether the child is able to read and write in English. Now DBE is forced to enforce its regulations on people they designate as educators in line with the regulations. The function had largely been performed without any formal educator qualification, and this has been happening for years. I don't know if anyone current educator in that space has a formal qualification, and if it does, it's an advantage, and that can be utilized. It seems to me that the transfer of the function needed to follow the requirements, but the reverse in this situation happened. We can't then, in the retrospect, seek to employ people with degrees to perform function that had already been transferred. Which degrees has ever been completed in a year? Which degree have ever been completed in a year? The rush situation that we are trying to highlight here is not going to take us anywhere, but a process of properly facilitate and transfer the necessary, element to where it's supposed to be done. It seems that this is the expectation. So we're saying DPE must clarify this requirement for all to see. From the committee's perspective, this is disruptive and is going to cause some chaos. It's too sudden and can only fail and bring the sector into chaos. Every school we went to in October didn't have dedicated classroom for ECDC. They had zinc structures, lacked sanitation, water. In fact, most schools lacked the basic kitchen equipment, which is so essential in performance of the ECD function by schools. We're saying it is not enough to sit in Pretoria and be writing circulars on norms and standards. It is not enough to expect that this function be performed whilst cutting budget, applying to deviation and doing environments. The haphazardness around scholar transport and how inconsistently service providers are paid is not assisting. We need to be looking at whether the arrangement of having provincial departments of transport run scholar transport is beneficial to the learner. Teachers are trapped in administrative work and not preparing for lessons and the actual teaching. The last call is then to take to operation to do activities. We have been making our clarion call and pleading and urging that members of the community must not and cannot be afforded to be misled in a situation like this, in a serious situation that is facing our people. Genuine issues are being utilized for political reasons, it is not assisting our people. In fact, it is so disruptive. We have seen, I think, in some couple of days where people were mobilized around misinformation, specifically on the question of prioritization of the, your kids. They are calling them illegitimate kids in the country, even though the constitution is clear, and then also what government is following is trying to implement what the court orders, because there were court processes that undergone this issue of whether they will take the kids that are the kids of your people that are here in the country, your foreign nationals specifically, illegitimate or legitimately. But the question is how and why the kids must be affected by this situation that has not been caused by them. That matter was taken to court and correctly argued, and then there were orders that this cannot be the situation. Government is not doing anything that is untoward. It is not doing anything. South Africa is the rule of law. We have been repeating ourselves on this matter. We cannot do anything that is not, legally constitutional in this country. Is the supreme law of this land. as it is always. Anything that we are doing, we are doing that informed by such. So we are pleading that the department must consistently communicate this information so that there are no confusion. It is the current situation. So we're saying that police must play their role whenever there are acts of criminalities. People are doing, interruptions to our children, the future of this country. They must not negotiate. They must arrest those members, who have gone rogue, continue to make, chaos, instead of trying to assist in the current challenges that we're confronted with in our department, of education, specifically your basic, education in this country, that we're in the process of transforming, and now we're experiencing this kind of a challenge. So it is important that, look, currently, as we have done last year, that for us to be able to move forward, we look in terms of how do we improve in terms of what the AG's reports were in the previous years, in order for us to be able to mitigate what is currently, challenging, and also how do we perform, we enforce performance, and also the question of management, that consequent management, where we saw that there are reckless and deliberate actions that have taken place in order for our departments do not find themselves in this situation. We also note the challenges that online registration in provinces like Gauteng and Western Cape, that continues to affect, the key our children, and then some of them ended up not being on the system due to the system. We are saying that there must be a serious improvement in order to overcome these particular challenges. We also want to highlight that the select committee will also be on the oversight visit, specifically on the province of Limpopo, where these matters we saw, the fair performance and the good, in terms of the results. But we are saying that we need to see more of this, improvement, and also pleading with the minister to come to a conclusion of drawing up the guidelines. I mean that will guide on the question of implementation of BELA, understanding also the impact of delays, because misinterpretation and the misunderstanding of the BELA Act will cause confusion, also will also affect our institutions. By those few words, Chairperson, I want to thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Honorable Feni. Ladies and gentlemen, colleagues, those are the presentations from the oversight committees in the National Assembly and the National Council of Provinces, dealing with oversight over education matters in the country. I wish now to take hands from the members of the media first, and then once we are done with the members of the media, then we'll move to the esteemed stakeholders. Are there any hands from the members of the media before we go to stakeholders? Okay, I think okay. Can we then move to, I don't see any hands, can we then move to stakeholders? I see the hand of Dr. Yako Dikon. Is there any other hand? The hand of Dr. Yako Dikon, that's the only hand that I'm seeing. You may proceed. We'll also look in the chat to see if whether there are any questions.
Thank you, Chairperson. Good morning to all, and all the best for the year. I'm Yako Dikon. I'm the CEO of FETSOS, the Federation for School Governing Bodies. Chair, thank you for the presentations, and we welcome the opportunity to engage with the different committees early in the year to deal with the issues. I agree with the issues raised by the committee, but on grassroots level, we experience 4 major hurdles to start the academic year. And I think it's pertinent and important for our commissions in Parliament during oversight visits to address these matters as it impacts directly on the ability of schools to execute their constitutional obligation to provide education. In most of the provinces, we struggled with the late appointment of leaders in the schools, principals, deputies, HODs, Free State, Western Cape, Northern Cape, Limpopo, Eastern Cape, or where a principal will be notified in this week that he's been appointed at another school. You can just imagine the disruption if we don't comply with due process and to give schools ample time to change leadership. So that's a huge crisis in 5 provinces. We still deal with disputes about post-provisioning in 3 provinces, though the final list should have been submitted in terms of statute by the 30th of September. KZN is a crisis, and Mpumalanga a crisis, and certain issues in Northwest. If schools don't know how many educators they have for the new year, or if they suddenly lose 7 posts, half of their staff, overnight, you can imagine the crisis that community face at the beginning of a new school year. And I think it's important for Parliament to provide quality oversight, to look at those statutory dates. And it's a statutory date, 30th of September, exactly the same for the norms and standards for the payment. Schools must know. If we look at the financial constraints in a number of provinces, they still owe schools money for last year, the subsidy for 2025. And schools get 2 payments, on or before the 15th of May and on or before the 15th of November. Now, the last payment is normally used to purchase all the material to start the new school year. And the chairperson of the portfolio committee referred to the stationery. If those schools did not get the money on the 15th of November, then there won't be stationery at the school. Then they will have to ask the parents, please assist us because we don't have money. Even in the no-fee school, we haven't received the subsidy on time from the state. And I think that's something that the oversight and the visits to provinces should be one of the main agenda items, is the payment to schools. And in a number of provinces, they don't pay the full amount. They withhold money because they want to purchase, and then schools don't see the money flowing or get the products. In a province like Limpopo, they would deliver crayons and clay at our high schools, which is absolutely absurd. And then, Chairperson, the last thing I would like to raise is the silence on grade R. We've spoken about Bella, one of the presenters, and the introduction and the application of the Bella amendments in the Schools Act. Grade R is compulsory. Yet, when I look at all the provinces, we talk about the enrollment of grade 1s and grade 8s. Plus, grade R is compulsory. And we've even criminalized, as politicians, you sign it into law to say we're going to criminalize parents if their children are not in school this year. So what will the committee do this year to make sure that all the grade R learners are actually in school? We know the minister said yesterday that there's no money. We're waiting for Treasury. But if it's compulsory from day one, surely Parliament should have done more when you sign it into law to make sure it's really accessible for all the grade R learners. We talk about 1.2 million grade R learners that must enter the system. Teachers, classrooms, learning material, part of the nutrition program, part of the scholar transport. So what will Parliament do this year to make sure that all the grade R learners will be in school and that we're in compliance with the Schools Act pertaining to grade R? Those are the 4 major issues. Thank you for the opportunity, Chair.
Thank you, Dr. Deacon, for those 4 major issues. May I then proceed to, I see Mahope Mapila.
Thank you, Chair. My name is Mahope Mapila, the president of SATU. First, we welcome the presentations and just say we thought that the Department of Basic Education was saying technical schools be introduced per second, not just at the district, because you would know that in a district, you might have more than 30, 40 circuits. So at the announcement of the results, the DBE was saying at least per second. Now, congratulating the matriculants who have done well, teachers and parents, for their contribution is welcomed. But the elephant in the room is the austerity measures. You are aware that a lot of provinces are experiencing problems of learner-teacher support materials, scholar transport, and so on. So we would urge that those matters be attended to as early as possible, and that the DBE be urged to finalize the guidelines on the implementation of BELA. I'm not sure if you are aware that the regulatory authority, which is South African Council of Educators, doesn't have a council for more than 6 months. It has never happened before. So as you play your oversight role, please also find out why has it taken so long for the regulatory authority to appoint the council. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you very much, President. The next hand is that of Theolin Tembo.
Hi, Theolin Tembo from Independent Media. I just have like 3 questions, but 2 for the Basic Education Chair. Just to start off, could you just maybe comment on the matric exam integrity and if there were any issues that came up with matric marking? And then secondly, given that it is a new academic year, will the portfolio committee still be keeping an eye on Milnerton High School and other schools where bullying incidents made quite a headline last year? And I know the portfolio committee did do an oversight visit at the school towards the end of last year. So yeah, just an update there. And then for the higher education chair, you did sort of touch on the discrepancy between the number of bachelor passes and the available spaces. Sort of what is doing to, can you just like reiterate what's being done to mitigate that the gap between there, and then just also if there are any updates regarding the current status of like NSFAS applications and if everything is still on track there. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Theolin. I believe that you are then followed by, not sure who came first between Vika Matthews and Malinga. You can go first, Malinga, SV.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairperson. This is Mr. Malinga, the president of NATO. One should first, welcome the presentation and also congratulate the class of 2025. But I'm partially covered with the speakers that have spoken before me. But one needs to emphasize the point that as much as we celebrate these results, our plea is to say, should the portfolio committee actually doing its oversight, it should not forget to pay more attention visiting the most deep rural areas because it's where things are happening. Let me take a practical example of KZN. In KZN, we celebrate that KZN has become number 1, and we appreciate it. But we still have a problem of infrastructure. We have a district in KZN called Mkhanyakote that is also doing very well. But we have the challenge that there are schools that were dilapidated, some few years back, and they have never been attended to. I may give the example of the following schools, mentioning the few. It's isiPhambano Primary School, isiGcino Primary School, and Ingaqa Primary Schools. As we are starting the academic year, we start with those backlogs. We have another school deep in Inquthu, Halad, that was actually dilapidated as early as 2021, but they have been not attended to. So what that actually says, it speaks to say educators from KZN are immune in working under, horrible conditions. And we want to celebrate that, forgetting that they, in one way or another, they will be discouraged to say, all what is supposed to be done is not done, but we keep on celebrating that they've done well. Austeric measures. I'm always wondering to say why austeric measures, because the issue of budget cut that was imposed, especially in education, does not make sense, because the country should invest more in education so that we will have a progressive country. If we also look at Northern Cape, I'm subject to be corrected, but I heard that their norms and standard has been slashed with almost 60%. That actually tarnishes the image of a sector. If there is no money in our provinces, they cannot get more teachers. Remember from what transpired when the national exams were actually, announced in the briefing of our DG. The number of learners are increasing year in and year out, but we fail to increase the number of teachers while we have number of, qualified teachers. So that speaks to overcrowding of classes, which actually, hinders the progress, because the teachers cannot pay attention to individual learner. So we pray that, the government and also the committee make sure that they attend to those issues to encourage our teachers to do much better. Thank you so much, my leader.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Ms. Matthews.
Thank you, Chairperson, and good morning to everyone on the platform. This is Lovika Matthews from NAPTOSA. Chairperson, we welcome the presentations as well, and I am covered by the previous speakers. I do, however, think that there are two items that also still need to be highlighted. One of those being learner placement. Chairperson, it cannot be the order of the day that learners aren't placed in the beginning of the school year. When learners aren't placed on the first day of the academic year, teaching and learning are immediately compromised. We speak about the matric exams, and we've heard many of the learners input, the overachievers, speaking about how they had to cram. If we have learners placed from day one and teaching and learning takes place from day one, then we won't have to be cramming towards the end of the year. Late placement disrupts curriculum coverage, leads to overcrowding because learners are just going to be placed randomly, and places unnecessary pressures on educators and school management. Chairperson, these things need to be concluded by the end of the previous year in order to ensure that effective learning and teaching takes place from day one. Secondly, Chair, the other item is school safety. This needs to be at the top of the agenda of the Oversight Committee. It includes not only learner safety, Chair, but also the safety of educators and support staff, because we're all aware that teaching and learning cannot take place in unsafe environments. The committee must strengthen oversight to ensure coordinated wild resource safety interventions across all departments. I think I'll leave it there. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Ms. Matthews. I don't see any other hand, so I will then go to the chairpersons. The chairpersons, those are the sentiments, the questions, comments from the industry players, as well as the members of the media. We've got inputs from Dr. Deacon. We've got also inputs I've captured from the president, President Mapila, also President Malinga, also from Theo of Independence, and then of course Ms. Matthews, I think it's Naptosa. Can I start with the Honorable Chairperson for Basic Education? And you can try the video to see if whether network connectivity has not changed, and if it doesn't work, we'll advise you.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Mutapo, and thank you very much to all our stakeholders for the questions, really, and the comments. Many of them were comments, many of them were really engagements and advices on what stakeholders believe the portfolio committee should focus on to enhance our oversight work. We really appreciate them. Well, firstly, let's start with the comments made by Dr. Deacon from FEDSAS to say that we concur with the comments that when the department is not well coordinated as it deals with issues of appointment of senior management staff in schools, that creates serious instability in schools. We have also experienced that where there is stability in the leadership of the school, there is smooth running. You see the school performing academically, but also you actually experience that there is more discipline, there is more coherence within the schooling environment. So Mr. Deacon did mention the provinces where this has occurred, and we've noted them down. So we are going to be engaging in our first meeting with the department. We are going to ask these critical questions for them to provide us with a report on why this has happened and where there needs to be some form of corrective action. We believe that we'll make a call for that corrective action as the portfolio committee. The issue of post-provisioning and the outstanding reports of KZN, Mpumalanga, and Northwest, we've also noted that where we are seated, the last report we've received from the department was indicating that the post-provisioning process has been concluded with all provinces. And if the reports are saying that it has not been concluded with the 3 provinces, we'll make that inquiry so that we receive a comprehensive report on why there is still outstanding matters in these provinces. We fully agree, Mr. Mutapo, with the issue on the allocation of standard and norms, that as we have said, that is going to be one of our focus area as a portfolio committee in the coming year. On the issue of the funding model, when do schools receive the allocation of standard norms? In other areas, we are told they receive this allocation in tranches. And sometimes they are told you're going to receive this allocation at a certain period and it is not transferred to schools. As a result, it creates a major problem for schools, for them to be able to operate and for them to be able to deal with emerging issues, emerging challenges at a school level, including maintenance, as members were speaking about the infrastructure, dilapidated infrastructure. So schools are even unable to maintain dilapidating infrastructure in the schools if they are not getting allocation. So what we do when we conduct oversight, perhaps so that members can be assured, the first thing we do is to demand an account of the financial or the budget of the school and see when have they received their allocation, how have they spent their allocation? Because in other areas, schools do receive their allocations on time, but they are drowning in municipal bills because Other schools are overbuilt, and there's many other challenges with that. So these are issues that we do as a portfolio committee look up to, and we interrogate when we conduct our oversight. But the bigger conversation with the department is on the overall funding model, the standard and norms, the allocation per learner per year. Is it adequate under the current circumstances? And that is the discussion we've been having with the department. And we plan to finalize it so that if there is a need for legislative review, we undertake a legislative review. We are not silent on grade R, Mr. Deacon. Before we closed the last year, we met with the department, and we demanded a report on the implementation of the Bella provisions. And that was really one of our last meetings. And one of the key issues we were looking at was the implementation of the compulsory grade R. And we were very impressed with the fact that in most of the provinces, there is adherence to the compulsory implementation of grade R. We were given an assurance that there has been admission and there were no issues. It was only in the Western Cape where the province indicated that it was struggling to fully implement this provision due to budgetary constraints and availability of spaces. So it's one of the things that we consistently monitor. Overall, President Mapila, we agree with the sentiments of all the speakers on the issue of austerity measures. We don't agree with austerity measures. We've engaged Treasury, we've engaged FFC to say they need to prioritize education, and we need to try and ensure that we cushion or we protect education from these budget constraints, because we've seen the consequences and the impact of this austerity. Said that the people now that are bearing the brunt is poor households where parents that are already struggling are now expected to even pay or buy stationery or pay certain fees. And that is because of these austerity measures, which we do not agree with. And in our engagements with Treasury, we will continue to advocate that education ought to be protected against any budget cuts. And we wish that, and we hope that unions as well as a very key important stakeholder will also amplify this voice. Make an inquiry. When we closed off last year, we were assured that the process of appointing the council was being finalized. And if it is not finalized, we really do need to make a follow-up on why it is not finalized. The integrity of the metric results, because there was a breach, the breach was widely reported. Where we are seated as a portfolio committee, we demanded a full comprehensive report, and the department said to us that they had appointed a task team to investigate the breach in full. And you would have seen that the department released that report a day before the release of the official release of the NSC examination. So we've not received that full report as the committee, so that we can interrogate the report and we can assure ourselves that all other issues that pertains to that breach were dealt with. And indeed, we can have an assurance that this breach only affected 40 learners, as the department alleges, or as the task team alleges. So we are going to interface with that comprehensive report and the task team so that we can be assured that indeed the breach did not compromise the integrity of the NSC results. We will still focus on bullying. It's not something that we can leave behind, because it is still a major issue in our schools. We have been going to provinces, all provinces, and when we do go to all provinces, President Malinga, we do have a variety of schools. So we focus on the schools in rural areas, in townships. We focus on special needs schools. We focus on ECDs centers that are in rural areas, because we know that those are the communities and the schools that are vulnerable to the current challenges that are in the education sector. So as we are going to Limpopo, you will see the schools, the number of schools, or the choice of the schools that we have identified, that it is mostly biased to rural communities and township communities that are mostly vulnerable to the challenges within the sector. We will, of course, we undertook an oversight visit last year to KZN. And we must share your sentiments, and we must admit we've been raising this thing in our press, our statements, and in our engagements on the state of affairs in the KZN province. We are seriously worried as a portfolio committee, to an extent that last year we even requested that the province must appear before us and explain to us the extent of the crisis that they are facing. And it is a crisis. When we visited the province, the MEC new infrastructure projects, even budget to deal with major infrastructure maintenance, which were clearly needed in that in other areas. So what we know is that in our budget adjustment that we've just passed as Parliament, there was a certain allocation, a certain addition to KZN, Limpopo, and Eastern Cape to deal with the frustration on infrastructure backlog. So we hope that that will go a bit of a way, but we do understand that the KZN problem requires a comprehensive intervention, and the department has promised us that they will appear before the committee to give us a comprehensive plan on how we're going to deal with the crisis in the KZN province. Of course, President Malinga, you are correct. The province, as we visited it, it's really one of a situation where you say academically the province has been performing very well, and they are facing major challenges. So their performance is not, their performance cannot say to us that we should not focus on their challenges. We must focus on their challenges, and they must be assisted and rescued from their financial challenges. The last issues, learner placement. We fully agree with Mrs. Matthews that the learner placement crisis in the two provinces, being Gauteng and Western Cape, is really unbecoming. We have engaged with these two provinces, and we are going to be holding a special session with the two provinces to understand what they are doing with the issue of learner placement. We've been referring many issues that we've received from parents, complaints and frustrations from parents on learner placement in the two provinces. And we fully agree with your sentiments that there ought to be better planning. It can't be that every year we know in January that we've got 5,000 unplaced learners. We should know in December, and by January, we should be able to have a plan in place on how we're going to accommodate those learners. And we fully agree that no learner deserves not to be at school on the first day of school. First day of school, all learners should be at class. Learning and teaching should commence. So we fully agree with your sentiments. The issue of school safety should be included in our focus area. We fully agree. We fully agree, and we will include it, Mr. Mutapo. Thank you very much. I hope I've covered all the issues that were raised by our stakeholders and the media. Thank you very much.
No, thank you very much, Chair. I think that was quite comprehensive. Honorable Letsie, Chair of Higher Education and Training.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mutapo. I think I'm happy that most of the questions went to basic education for a change. I only have maybe one or two or 1.5 questions. The first one is the number of bachelor passes versus available spaces. Maybe I need to, it was, I think, asked by Theolin from Independent Media. Maybe just to indicate that we did indicate in our statement that we have 235,000 spaces for first-time entering students at our public universities, whereas basic education produced 245,000 students with bachelor passes. So the difference there is 10,000 students. It is not what we desire, but we also need to indicate that we've increased spaces for first-time entering students this year by 33,000, because last year we had first-time entering student spaces There were 202,000. We are now at 235,000. It's a gradual increase, and we've indicated that the reason why we're increasing this way is that we have enrollment targets that are linked to the budget. And it will be very dangerous for us to increase, let's say, for an example, to 250,000 university spaces this year when we can't afford to pay for those students. So it's a gradual increase that is linked to the budget. What must those students do in the meantime? There are those who should consider probably private education if they can, like I said, go to the department's website, which is www.dhet.gov.za. They will see that there's a sublink there that will take you to universities. Then you'll go to private universities to check those that are registered. We urge parents and students to check the the registration of these colleges, because we don't want them to fall prey and go into fly-by-night institutions. We urge the police, working with the Department of Higher Education and Training, to crack down on these fly-by-night institutions to reduce the risk for parents, to fall prey to these criminals who may be acting as if they are institutions of higher learning. It is indeed true that what we desire is that we want to have spaces for all those that pass matric with bachelor passes to go into our institutions. But as things stand, we've closed the gap this year by 33,000 spaces, and we're hopeful that next year we'll be able to accommodate all those that get their bachelor passes. They should be accommodated in our institutions. We also do have SETAs and NSFAS funded programs. I mean, those two per year, they are expected or required to produce 30,000 artisans and other skills in high demand. The challenge that we have there is that students don't go to these programs, probably because they don't know. And we urge these SETAs and NSF, because artisans are once you qualify, once you complete and qualify to be an artisan, you are almost 99% guaranteed to find employment and be better paid. So we also urge our students to look for those opportunities which are out, and we are going to ask these SETAs and NSF to advertise and tell these prospective students to be trained in these skills, to also look out for those opportunities. And then on the NSFAS updated stats, I just need to indicate that, which is something I omitted on my original speech, is that those that are currently enrolled at universities, 423,000 of them met the academic criteria, which makes it 79% of continuing students. This is very good because we have almost 80% of those that we've been funding meeting the eligibility or academic criteria, meaning they've passed with minimum 60%, and NSFAS will continue to fund them. So over and above those that NSFAS will fund, the 235,000, if they all come from NSFAS, we still have 423,000 that NSFAS is going to fund. The 11%, or rather the 21% that did not meet the academic criteria, there's also possibilities for them. They know they're probably affected by the pass rate, or they're affected by the N+1 rule. They're allowed to appeal, and if the appeals, because some of them, they may be included on the 21%, but they may not have written because they were in hospital, or they were some challenges affecting them from writing. They do need to obviously appeal, and the numbers will go up. Currently, NSFAS, or as of yesterday, NSFAS had received about 32,000 appeals, and 7,000 were resolved by yesterday, and the numbers are increasing today. Of the 7,000 that were resolved, 1,000 were approved. And this is the point I was making earlier, that being rejected does not necessarily mean that you will not be funded. You just need to appeal and provide proof of what you are alleging. And true to that, 1,000 were approved out of the 7,000 that were resolved, and about 5,900 were rejected. We call upon these students to really appeal, provide the outstanding documents, look out for the emails from the universities, accept those offers as soon as possible. I think we must also pause to say that NSFAS funded students don't need to pay any deposit. I think they call it a deposit at this institution. You don't need to pay any of this for registration. They call it registration fee. If there's an institution that is asking a student to pay this registration fee, please let us know, because they will be in breach of what we've agreed with their mother body called USAF. We also want to indicate that if you are allocated student residence, there's no deposit that a student that is NSFAS funded must pay a deposit, because there are other student accommodation providers who are asking students for deposit. They should not pay. If there's a student accommodation provider asking a student that is NSFAS approved to pay, they must let us know as soon as possible. I hope that I've covered everything that Motapo. Those were the only two issues. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair. We are also noting the inputs in the chat section of this engagement, issues relating to the Bella Act in relation to homeschooling, the issues of teaching staff vacancies in some provinces, that challenge, the issue of compliance with grade 12, is it grade R? Yes, grade R educators' appointments, a lack of compliance thereof, the issue of budget allocation per learner as per the minimum requirements. So we are noting all that. If the chairpersons of basic education are also noting that, if we have time, the chairpersons can reflect on that, but otherwise they are recorded, and the oversight committees will take note of that. Thank you very much. Honorable Feni, are there issues that you want to deal with in relation to the inputs and questions as well?
No, thanks, Chairperson. I think the benefit of speaking last is that you are in a position of being covered on a number of aspects that have been, raised by our stakeholders. Just to appreciate, the inputs specifically, which is that's part of supporting, the department on the current challenges that we are busy, trying to resolve. I think the stakeholders have highlighted that. But one thing that I must highlight is that the process of transformation is one of the difficult processes that somewhere, somehow, you will get some resistance on the basis that there is information gap. So whoever that comes across anything that is new will always think about the position that will put himself on or herself. So hence you are getting some gaps specifically related to the act which deals with the transformation of our education system. encapsulate a number of pieces of legislation, which is the Bella Act. Yes, indeed, we've highlighted also, our dissatisfaction and then also our discomfort on how these guidelines, have been a little bit of delay to by the minister. I think it had been raised by Dr. Dickens around that question, and also further information gap. We will continue to give some challenges, but what is important from the side of the department is to ensure that we disseminate and also try to educate so that we can be on the equal footing in terms of understanding the act itself, because it is one of the legislations that is assisting in terms of how we are dealing with the question of learner systems that we are confronted with. On the question of the challenges of the online applications as raised by Mrs. Matthews, also it has been also addressed by my chair, Honorable Maimela, Joy. There is an assumption or insinuation that have been alleged on this question, that the former model C schools, specifically on the question of the high number of students that are being excluded, those institutions are still continuing to protect themselves, with stringent measures of access. Hence, you find that there is a serious, imbalances in terms of the question of these, applications, where they are being made, where these kids are being accepted, and then they are being held in abeyance, due to a number of issues that are affecting, the question of your resources that are available, the question of infrastructure in other situations, that those schools that were regarded as non-fee and then former disadvantaged schools, kids are moving from those areas because of better chances. So we want to also make it clear, specifically in Western Cape and Gauteng province, that at least these must be reconsidered, and also they must be opened up, because the question of overcrowding, you will discover that it's still continuing on the same situation that on the same schools that were used to be called, because in as much as their timeline and so on, if these kids are being rejected, they are always better, accepted in this. So we want to put an emphasis on that, on the so-called former Model C schools, those that were much more resourced and so on, must try to open up also, up until we get full evidence with regard to that. We will make sure that we are following it up. On President Malinga, we need also the role of the stakeholder, the union, to assist in terms of exactly what you have highlighted was on our oversight on rural schools, whether you go to KZN, Limpopo, Eastern Cape, so on and so on. You will have these challenges that you are raising, and then better cooperation in this instance, as we highlighted in our input, that the proper, consequent management, if it's not being applicable, at hand, consistently, you will have these challenges. We were on oversight on the Amatole East, the former site area, where there were issues that could have been immediately resolved. But I'm telling you, up until today, there is no clarity in terms of how are those issues. The issue of infrastructure will always be there, but certain issues, I think your members also must be encouraged. Just a mere connectivity on internet you know, the question of your tranches that are supposed to be received by this particular school, in order for them to be able to operate, you discover that even though the allocation has been made, it has not yet arrived in those schools. And then when the consequent management now is taking place in some of, because of reckless and negligence on the side of your administrative part, you will discover that there will be, the people who are being protected and so on. Hence, I'm saying the cooperation on the side of stakeholders directly and also encourage members to comply, and also the question of performance must meet the budget, the budgeting utilization, because you can't utilize, all the budget that you have, but when the budget has been exhausted before even the end of a financial year, you discover that it doesn't even match the question of performance on the ground, and you don't know where the money have gone. So those are the issues that we are confronted with on the ground. Hence, I'm saying, my president, that look, on the question of all of these issues that we are raising, indeed are the challenges that we are confronted with, but also we will also need also to assist in ensuring that these issues are being addressed, and also all the stakeholders that are involved becomes part and parcel of what we seek to achieve. So those are the three issues that I wanted to highlight on, but others really are appreciated. Or the last one, I think I must also put an emphasis on this, on the question of the report. The report, even today, as a select committee, we haven't even saw it. We just saw it on the media. We are still waiting to interrogate it, because we have our own issues, that we want also to engage on the report itself, and also on the processes for better results also in other terms that are coming. Because if we are not addressing, these issues now, thoroughly engaging on them, then we will have so we cannot fully participate on the report, because the report is on the media. It's not the report that we engage. So we'll also be pleased to have an opportunity to interrogate the report, and then it becomes our report also. And also on the austerity measures, I think my honorable chairperson have already clarified on that one also, in our position with regard to that one. So thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you very much, Honorable Feni. Thank you to all the chairpersons. I don't see any further questions. But like I said, there are some issues that have been raised in the group. I'm not sure if whether Chairperson Maimela is able to see them, but like I said, if we don't have the opportunity to deal with them comprehensively, they are recorded, and the chairpersons are here. They will be part of the issues that the committees of parliament then will take forward going forward. I'm not sure if whether Chair, you are able to see them on the chat. They relate to lack of provision for homeschooling in the Bella Act. They relate to the challenge of staff vacancies and field vacancies in schools in certain provinces. They also relate to the non-compliance by some of the schools in terms of filling the grade 12 teacher vacancies in line with the minimum requirements, and of course also the none of compliance with in some provinces with regard to the allocation of budget to ensure learners. I think those are some of the issues. They are quite comprehensive. And I see that they are completely noted, as the chairperson is saying in the chat. Indeed, to thank the members of the media for your attendance, the stakeholders, the leadership of the union movement organizing in the education sector, the various non-governmental organizations, civil society, the leadership of the learners and the students at the various universities, participants from the higher education sector, all the colleagues, the stakeholders, the members of the media that are present. Let me thank you indeed for forming part of this important engagement and briefing during this critical time of the year, where focus is on ensuring that our learners, our young people have got access to education, both at the basic education level and the higher education level. And Parliament exists, as we always say, and as it is in line with the Constitution, to serve and to represent the people of South Africa. And indeed, through this kind of engagements, we find solutions collectively and tackle them, and we continuously make a dent on the most pressing issues and challenges that our country is confronted with. And we are really grateful for your contributions to these solution finding processes. And we thank you very much for your participation. Thank you to the honorable chairpersons for your presence and for your engagement with the stakeholders and the media, and for your leadership in those oversight committees. This is not a once-off engagement. It is continuous. It is continuous engagement. Thank you very much. On that note, let me bring this engagement to a close. Thank you.